Hey guys, this is Sola Scriptura here. Gonna try to start making some more Legacy Burn content again. Getting back into Legacy, played a couple rounds already in the league. Deck felt pretty good, figured I'd go back and record the games that I already played. This is the list I'm running right now. I'm on 20 mountains. I know people like going between 19, 20, and occasionally down to 18. I've always felt good running 20, especially when you're playing Fire Blast in the deck. I'm doing my quintessential 3 Fire Blasts rather than 4. Combos should be a little bit lower right now. Sometimes I go up to 4 if there's a lot of combo. I'm running 2 Sulfuric Vortex in the main, which also influenced my decision to run 20 lands a little bit as well as the 3 drops that are in the sideboard. But this is to beat Oko, and to help us beat anything that's going to be a slow and kind of a grindy game. Obviously it has some mainboard applications against stuff like Death and Taxes that has lifelink related stuff in their deck, or life gain. And, you know, a lot of the time you're throwing bolts at their creatures anyways, so Sulfuric Vortex can kind of make up for some of that. I do have a third one in the side as well, so we've got 3 total. I'm on 2 Light Up the Stage. I never really felt like the card was that bad. I know that a lot of people have been moving away from it. All I know is that whenever I was doing well playing Burn, I was running some amount of Light Up the Stage, and it really just seems to smooth stuff over. I'm on 3 Price of Progress right now. I'm not excited about it, but with Eldrazi Post and just Eldrazi aggro and some of the other 4-color decks that are running around, or 3-color decks that are running around that aren't running Astrolabe, I do think the card is fairly good right now. There's still some dead matchups for the card, but it's one of the few cards in mono red that can really just get you out of a hole if they have a good start against you, or if you mulligan low or draw poorly. So it's nice to run the card. It can do some work. Other than that, it's a pretty stock list. Running 3 skewers and 3 rift bolts, and those are basically would be the 4th copies would be Light Up the Stage otherwise, or the other way around rather. In the sideboard, I'm trying out Red Elemental Blast. That's mostly for Oko as well. My gut says I should probably be running only 1 of these, so I'm going to try 2 because I've seen a lot of people running 2 or 3. 4 Smash of Smithereens. I just think the card's incredible. I think you really want to see one when you want one. It's very good against Chalice of the Void. It's really our only way out. Pretty good against Death and Taxes, and it's good against Eldrazi and Eldrazi Post. Even if they don't find a Chalice, it's still a very live card against them. Because Eldrazi is doing so well lately, I'm running Ensnaring Bridge, and there's also another reason I was running this. I guess Show and Tell, it's decent and stuff like that, lands related decks, but I think Ensnaring Bridge is fairly good right now, so we're going to go ahead and try that out. 2 Exquisite Firecrafts, still want to be able to bring in something against the blue decks that are like Miracles or Delver and stuff, decks that we're normally fairly good against. And then 4 Leyline of the Void. I'm going to try this out over Tormod's Crypt. I think normally I'm going to be bringing out Light Up the Stage against Reanimator anyways, so Tormod's Crypt interaction with Light Up the Stage is a little bit less relevant if I'm planning on taking those out anyways. Don't know if that's correct. I could see an argument for Tormod's Crypt over Leyline, but the few times that I've played against Reanimator, I've seen them get out of both fairly easily, so I think Leyline should be a little bit more difficult, but we'll see. I'm going to try out 4 for now. And I guess that's that for the intro. Let's go ahead and get to a game. Alright, so we've opened up with this kind of a hand. It's a little bit iffy. We do have a lot of 1-drops to do, and we are on the draw. This hand is quite good against a lot of the formats. The only card that makes me kind of worried about keeping this kind of a hand is Fire Blast, but being on the draw, I'm generally okay with this kind of stuff, so we'll go ahead and keep. The opponent starts off with turn 1 Thoughtseize, so I'm immediately thinking this is probably Storm, and I'm a little bit less excited about this kind of a hand because he's just going to take the Eidolon, more than likely. And my hand is just going to be very slow, so like I really need to draw another land here so I can play Swiftspear, and then I can just start firing off a volley of stuff and then try to kill him with Fire Blast. So he does end up taking the Swiftspear, which is a little bit surprising to me. It makes me think he might not be on Storm at this point. Maybe he's on Pox or something like that. We immediately top deck the Goblin Guide, So we'll go ahead and run that sucker out there and swing. We see a polluted Delta, which again makes me think that it's probably Storm. Opponent plays on a tropical island, goes for a Ponder, and concedes. So, not really sure what we're playing against. At this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just like a bug deck or something like that. I don't know why he would concede right there. Maybe his hand is just so bad and he knows that he can't stop me from going after him, so I'm thinking that it's probably going to be some sort of bug mid-range deck at this point. Okay, so we're here after sideboarding, and this is what we've taken out / brought in. I took out a Rift Bolt, I took out a Fire Blast and a Price of Progress, and I brought in the Exquisite Firecrafts and... oh gosh, something else. Yeah, so anyways, this opening hand's not very good. Obviously, we're a bit flooded, and if we're playing against Bug mid-range, and they're going to be potentially Thought-Seizing us or him to Turok-ing us, we don't really want this kind of a hand, so we're going to go ahead and ship that back. This hand's a little bit better, though. We're going to go ahead and keep this one. Bottom of the land, pretty obviously. Get this off the screen. We do get hit by a Thoughtseize again, and at this point, your gut should probably be telling you that this is probably Storm, because a bug deck keeping in Thoughtseize against the burn deck is fairly... it's not standard, I guess is why I would say. It could still be a bug deck, but at this point, I think it's safe to say that your gut is just to go after the opponent as fast as you can, because it's probably Storm. When they take the Eidolon, again, that should really let you know that it's Storm at that point. So the Sulfuric Vortex was the third card we brought in because we assumed it was bug mid-range. So we're going to go ahead and get in there with Goblin Guide. See a Ponder on top of the opponent's deck. Still technically could be bug mid-range, but the basics here are making me think it's probably Storm again. So the opponent goes for a Ponder. We're not dead. That's a good sign. Swift Spear is actually a pretty good draw here. We're going to go fire off the Lava Spike, hit our opponent for down to 8 here. See a Brainstorm on top, kind of a scary card. If we draw a land here, we can kill our opponent, however, with Exquisite Firecraft and a Prowess trigger from Swift Spear. So the opponent casts Dark Ritual, gigs up, definitely Storm. And apparently it's Doomsday, which is probably the worst case scenario Storm for us, because they have a lot of ways. I mean, the meme is basically that, like, if they've cast Doomsday, the game is either over this turn or the next turn, and they can basically win through almost anything in Magic, is kind of the idea. They can set up their deck in such a way that they can beat almost any card, or any situation that you can put them in, if they're a good enough Doomsday pilot. The reason this is scary for us is we'd much prefer them to go for Ad Nauseam here, and maybe kill themselves, or just die to, like, a potential Fire Blast, or, you know, scare them a little bit, or force them to have a couple different cards in hand, because, like, they obviously have 4 cards in hand total when they're casting Doomsday, or they have 3 now. That's not really enough most of the time for an Ad Nauseam Tendrils deck to go off reliably. We do know that the opponent still has a Brainstorm in hand, so that could potentially get them there, but anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that Doomsday is very hard to interact with. They don't really care about the graveyard. They don't necessarily need to cast a bunch of spells in the same turn. They can set it up to where they only need to cast like 1 or 2 or something like that, so Eidolon isn't necessarily even a hard lock at certain points in the game. And then cutting off the graveyard or getting their life total low enough to where Ad Nauseam doesn't get them out doesn't really do anything. Okay, so the opponent tanks here for a while. They play Arkham's Astrolabe, which I think is the reason that this deck is good again, I believe, is what people were saying. Has been paying costs for quite a while here. Okay, for whatever reason this is failing to work, but basically the opponent goes for Doomsday, sets up their deck, draws the card, plays a Lotus Petal here, is able to make some amount of mana from that, and then they cast a Thassa's Oracle to win the game after their library is empty. Alright, we're here for the third game. We've got a decent hand of a lot of 1-drops, but if I had a second land, I would probably keep it, especially if I could just get rid of like the Skewer or something like that. This hand's very quick. It's a very quick win. I think we're going to go ahead and we're just going to mulligan this one, though. It's just, if we don't find that other land, we're in trouble. We're going to go ahead and have to keep this one. It's still a pretty quick hand, but it's a little bit worse to Thoughtseize and stuff like that. So we're going to have to go ahead and put a land on the bottom of the deck here. But we still have a pretty good start. I mean, turn 1 Goblin Guide's great. We can kind of see what our opponent's hand might end up looking like here. So there's the Thassa's Oracle. Opponent's going to fetch. They play Arkham's Astrolabe. So I'm thinking, okay, like this is probably pretty good for us. We're going to go ahead and be able to play this Eidolon here. Oh yeah, and I ended up bringing in a single red blast for Thassa's Oracle just in case. Make him play around the card if we had to. I'm going to go ahead and attack here with Goblin Guide, get some more information. And I see a Force of Will on top of my opponent's deck, which is pretty scary. I assume that my opponent probably has some number of Street Wraiths in their deck, so he could draw this at instant speed. I definitely just want to get this Eidolon into play as quickly as I can, and I really hope he doesn't have a Force of Will here to get me, but unfortunately he does, and he ends up pitching a Ponder. So things are looking kind of bad for us. Pretty worried about what could happen here. The opponent decides to just play out the Thassa's Oracle we knew about, to basically scry a little bit there. We're going to go ahead and play out this Mountain, and we are just going to go after the Red Blast. We need to get Goblin Guide in as much as we can. It doesn't feel great, but we need to hopefully just be able to do as much damage as possible here. So we see an Astrolabe on top, which is good. Goblin Guide hasn't really been digging the opponent into too much stuff. And now we're just going to fire off our burn spells, be as efficient as we possibly can. We're at the point of where Rift Bolt's going to resolve next turn, more than likely. That'll put them down to 5. When Goblin Guide hits in, they'll put them down to 2. And then just any burn spell off the top of the deck kills them. So we're in a fairly good spot. They play the Astrolabe we know about, and they play the Brainstorm. Then they go ahead and play out a Lotus Petal. So I'm thinking, like, at this point, okay, I'm probably just dead. But we move to the end step, and we're still alive. So my assumption is that they're playing the Lotus Petal just to get around Eidolon. So we're going to go ahead and Rift Bolt the opponent, get him down to 3. We're going to go ahead and attack. Just give our opponent the least amount of options possible. We don't want to show them the Lava Spike, and then like let them see the Goblin Guide, and then them have the ability to sack this Lotus Petal for a Fatal Push or something like that to heal our guide. So we just want the most possible information about what's going on. We're going to hit him down to 3, and now there's a lot less cards that stop Lava Spike from getting through. The opponent does end up sacking, and they have a Flusterstorm. So this Rift Bolt ended up betraying us, essentially, because this Flusterstorm's going to be able to counter this Lava Spike now. So that's fine. Hopefully we're not dead. We got the opponent to use a piece of mana on a Flusterstorm there, which is nice, and we know that they don't seem to have any other lands because they haven't played a land in a while, and it's turn 4. So mana is tight. We did have a small victory there, but we would have preferred the large victory of them just dying, of course. Opponent plays a Baleful Strix, and we top deck another Lava Spike. At this point, we're hoping that they don't have a Force of Will, but they do. So they go down to 2 now, which does increase the chances of us having live top decks, because now even Eidolon or a Goblin Guide just being on the table would be a good spot for us. The opponent plays a Waterlogged Grove and then sacrifices it, which is a little bit surprising given that they're cut on mana, but at the same time, when you realize they're 2 life, it's kind of the worst possible lane for them to draw in their deck, basically. And if they tap it, they die to Swift Spear off the top, so maybe that was the thought process there. We draw another burn spell off the top of the deck, so we're running pretty hot here, I guess literally. And we're just going to, of course, fire that off and see what happens. And at this point, the opponent doesn't have a Force of Will or anything like that, and they just die. But I guess the MTGO is just going to freeze at this point. So ended up getting there. This is what the sideboard was again. Like I said, we ended up bringing in one Red Elemental Blast. We took out all the Vortexes. We took out all the Prices. This was actually a pretty hard decision here as to what to bring in, what to bring out, because I ended up bringing in a Smash to Smithereens, literally because I would have a chance to hit Arkham's Astrolabe, and I think I had like 2 slots in my deck where I was like, do I really want to run Price of Progress that might just be dead? Do I want to run Sulfuric Vortex that might just be dead, or do I want to run Smash to Smithereens, which can maybe hit like an Astrolabe and hurt its colors and stuff like that? So at the time I chose Smash to Smithereens. Maybe I should have done like a 1-1 split, because like the second Smash would probably be bad if I top decked it, whereas like at least 1 Price of Progress, you know, would have done maybe at least 2 damage there. I'm not really sure. I think Sulfuric Vortex is probably a bit too slow, but maybe it was correct to bring one of those in just for like the 2 damage on his upkeep or something. Kind of unclear how I'm supposed to sideboard based on this, but Leyline of the Void is interesting. I don't think it's correct to bring in, but you can think about it, because Doomsday technically does allow them to shuffle from their graveyard back into their deck, so they can use some of those cards in their graveyard and put them back into their deck if they need to. But I just think that's like such a slim margin of like having it in your opening hand and having it matter. I just don't think it's relevant. I think that they can probably win without their graveyard pretty easily. So anyways, that's the first match, and ended up doing okay. It's a scarier version of Storm for us, in my opinion. I think they need a little bit less gas to go off, and they're pretty comfortable winning through a variety of hate. Thanks for watching.